All right, I don't see anybody else trying to get in right now, and it is 10 o'clock. Paul and Jacob, do you want to go ahead and we can get started? Okay. Well, since we don't have a chair yet, I will go ahead and call this first meeting of the Recreational Marijuana Establishments Selection Committee to order. I have 10:01 on my clock here. And the first thing that we need to do is do a roll call. The three members of the selection committee are myself, City Clerk Jeremy Howard, City Planner Jacob Kane, and Director of Public Safety Paul Loria. And all three are present, so we have a full quorum. And the first order of business that we need to do is elect a chairperson. So we have a nomination for chair.
I'll make a nomination for Jacob Kane to be chair of the board, please.
Okay, I can second that. So we have a nomination for Jacob. Any other nominations? Okay, any discussion on that? If not, all those in favor of City Planner Jacob Kane chairing the selection committee say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, Jacob, I'll let you take it from here.
Sounds good. Next item on our agenda is communications. We do have one communication to the committee, which was received yesterday. This communication was in regards to the conditional, or I should say the application from Pure Relief and Union at 319 North Mission Street. And I have provided that communication to the committee electronically. Next item on our agenda is public input. This is the time period where any members of the public that are joining us on the call today can feel free to take 5 minutes to address the selection committee. We would ask that you give us your name and address for the record before speaking. If you are interested in speaking, you can either raise your hand using the raise hand function within Zoom so that you can be recognized, or if you have your video live and want to physically raise your hand, we can recognize you to speak. So we'll go ahead and open that public input period. Mr. Howard, do we have anyone who's raised their hand in Zoom to address the committee?
Doesn't appear to be, no.
Okay. Seeing no one that wishes to address the committee, I'm going to go ahead and close the public input period, and we'll move on to our next item, which is discussion on receipt and start of review of supplemental applications. So I guess I'll start off by just expressing gratitude to the entities that we've worked with in receipt of these 10 supplemental applications, both for being very patient with the city as we responded to the pandemic that we're all currently experiencing. That obviously resulted in delay in our process from where we initially anticipated that we would be. And also for everyone working with us to have a smooth application process once we were able to finally establish that deadline and receive those applications over the last couple weeks. As many of you likely already know, the committee has not begun reviewing those applications yet. This meeting today is intended to be a kickoff to that process, to let everyone who was interested have an opportunity to see who composes that selection committee for the city, and for us to talk briefly about what that process is going to look like going forward. Before I continue, I have a few notes of items I wanted to share with folks who might be joining us today. Is there anything members of the selection committee would like to offer before we continue?
I think I'm good right now.
Okay,
I'm fine.
Perfect. So first of all, I just wanted to let the public know that it's the intention of the selection committee at this point to hold a total of 3 meetings, with today's meeting being our first. We anticipate that at some point in by mid-August that the committee will be holding a second meeting, and the purpose of that meeting will be for the committee to come together and discuss what we found during our preliminary review independent reviews of these supplemental applications to see if we have any questions or initial comments on those applications that we want to discuss as a group. And so that will be the principal purpose for that second meeting. Just as we provided notice of this meeting so folks could attend, we will once again do that. Of course, at this point, it's not clear if that meeting will be a virtual meeting like today's meeting, or if we'll be shifting back to an in-person meeting practice. That will depend largely on rules issued by the state of Michigan between now and that eventual meeting date. But we will provide notice to the applicants that that meeting is occurring once we have a firm date scheduled for that event. The third meeting, the intended purpose of that meeting at this point is to complete the scoring and announce the three parties, the three entities, applications that have been selected to move forward through our licensing process. And the committee's intent at this point is for that to occur at some point before Labor Day. So likely by the end of August or that very first partial week of September, to have had that selection committee meeting and be able to allow those entities to move forward through our licensing process. As I mentioned, we haven't begun reviewing the applications. We do have several thousand pages of documents to review, and so these timelines are subject to change. But at this point, that is our best guess of where we'll be headed. Second item I wanted to discuss was the scoring criteria, because I know we fielded a number of questions about the scoring criteria both before and during the supplemental application period. First thing I wanted to note is that, at least from my perspective, and I'll let other committee members speak for themselves if they wish, the scoring criteria are not designed to be all or nothing. And so each category has points allocated to it, be it 10 points or 20 points. And the intent was not and is not, from my perspective, that folks will get either 0 points or 10 points or 0 points or 20 points. The committee will have the discretion as a committee and as individual members to allocate partial points, whether they're whole or fractional points, within those categories in the manner in which they see fit. In part, those point allocations are going to be made relative to the other applications. So we'll be looking at the quality of the submitted items and the sufficiency of those items, not just as they stand on their own, but also how they stack up compared to the other application materials we've received from different entities. So we'll be looking at all those components. Each scoring criteria and category has subcomponents to it, and so we'll be diving into each of those in more detail when we determine how to allocate those points. And then ultimately, our charge as a committee is to determine who's best suited to operate in compliance with the MRTMA. That's the charge of this committee, and from my perspective, that will be our focus as we look at the 10 applications in comparison to each other to determine which entities are in fact best suited to operate in compliance with the MRTMA. Third point I wanted to raise is that the committee may supplement the materials that were submitted by applicants in order to make that determination of who's best suited to operate in compliance with the MRTMA. And just as an example of what that might look like, as I thought about my review of these applications, if we receive documentation from an applicant and we want to do further exploration of the information we received, for instance, if we receive information about business operations in another community and we want to reach out to that community to find out more about that community's perception of that business operation, that's within the right of the committee to do that or to not do that. We may consult our own records to see if any of our applicants are current property owners in the community, what kind of history they've had of operating with those existing businesses or as owners of those existing properties. So I just wanted to make it clear that that's something that, at least for myself as a committee member, that I may engage in some additional research just to further provide context to the materials that have been provided by the applicants. And then finally, number 4, I just wanted to request that applicants please, to the extent possible, if you have questions or comments that relate to the scoring process or the selection period, to please bring those forward to the committee at our meetings, either as official correspondence to the committee or by participating in the public input portion of our meetings. And that's really so that each committee member can benefit from that input together. Ultimately, we'll be making this, although we'll be doing these reviews independently, we'll be coming together at these meetings in order to collaborate and learn from each other in our independent reviews of these applications. And it would be beneficial if each of us had that same information available to us. So I just wanted to provide those comments on the review period and my approach to how I'll be conducting these reviews. And again, I'd ask if my fellow members of the selection committee have anything they'd like to add in terms of their approach to this review.
No, I would echo what you were saying, that you know, those 4 points are important, and we'll try to keep everybody as posted as we can. As far as when we have public meetings, we'll be doing our normal public meeting postings, so those will be posted to our website, and we'll try to make contact with you if we can on those postings. So just keep an eye out for those, as we have in the past, sending you notice. And you know, I would agree with Jacob that the scoring criteria is not an all or nothing, and partial points and quarter points, half points certainly are possible in those, for those different categories, and breaking down the different pieces in those categories.
And I too would echo those comments, but I want to add and stress the importance of, I know how each of my fellow committee members work. They're thorough, they have attention to detail, and as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to do my due diligence and research to make sure that we get someone who can be successful, who is a good community partner. So I would especially echo Chairman Kane's comment about doing additional research. I don't take on this responsibility lightly, I guess, and I'm going to make sure it's right for the community.
Perfect. Well, are there any other comments from the selection committee?
I think I'm good. Just looking forward to reading thousands of pages of documents.
I got boxes of stuff, and I'm just wondering if we can go to an isolated island and maybe
Right.
No distractions.
Yeah, I would say I would just kind of echo that and add to my earlier comment that we recognize and appreciate the energy and attention that went into producing these supplemental applications on behalf of the entities by a number of people on those teams, and our intention is to give them their due, to provide the time and attention that's needed to fully review those applications and to make the best possible decision for the city of Mount Pleasant and our residents. And so, so with that, just a reminder that we likely will hold our second committee meeting at some point in early to mid-August. And we will once again provide public notice of that meeting, as well as an additional electronic notice to the applicants to let them know the specifics of that meeting and the format that meeting will be held in. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the committee.
I'll make the motion.
Or Paul? Okay. I can second that.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor of adjournment of our first committee meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.